The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network. Any questions or concerns about what is said should be directed to the show host, whose information will be provided upon request.
Hello, welcome again to Let's Talk Money 2020. Glad you could be with us this Friday, the 22nd of 2020. I'm going to get right into things. You know, I don't like to have a lot of greeting words and like to waste. I don't like to waste a lot of time. I like just get right into my subject. So that's what I want to do. I want to just tell you what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about surviving the game. You know, being in business is really about survival, and it's about being in the game, and it's about knowing how to play the game. So the things I've learned over the years, I try to share with clients and friends and colleagues. So I like to talk about these kind of things because you know you don't see these kind of things written in books or you hear people talking about them a lot. Or this, some people might have been in business so long that they probably have forgotten certain things. But I try to think about some of the things that you need to survive. If you were in a jungle, you have to know the rules of the jungle to survive. And being in business is like being in a jungle. But if you don't know those rules, if you don't know how to keep yourself fed, if you don't know how to keep yourself protected and advancing forward, then you're going to succumb to the absolute nature of the jungle. And business is no different. Now the second thing we're going to talk about is S corps. I got a lot of requests to talk about S corps, so we're going to get to those. So hang tight. We'll get to the S corps, and then if I have enough time, I don't know whether I do or not, but I want to talk about some of the options if you did not get the PPP, and those options are pretty cool too. So let's get right to it. All right. So I want to start by talking about, just being in business in general. I don't want to give it a negative picture because a lot of times, when you think about the hurdles that you have to go through with business, it can get pretty daunting and it could sound like, something that you can't achieve. But, one thing I try to do is I try to think about the positive sides. There are a lot of negative sides. I'm not going to kid you. I'm not going to just play around. Being in business is probably the hardest thing, and surviving a business is the hardest thing probably you'll ever experience. I've heard all kinds of stories of people kind of related to different difficulties in life, but it is probably the hardest thing that I've ever tried to accomplish. So it's gratifying. There is a challenge of keeping things going, growing things, doing things different. But those things are quite satisfying. But there are times when things are not that satisfying. But it's like everything in life. You just can't have everything being, I guess, green and feeling that you're I guess overcoming every little obstacle that comes your way. I mean, sometimes you feel defeated. Sometimes you feel you can't go on. Sometimes you feel like, what am I doing? Sometimes you start to doubt yourself. Sometimes you start to doubt the people around you. These things happen, but I tell you, overall, it's the most gratifying feeling, a gratifying experience you'll ever have. The learning curve is just so tremendous, especially if you want to succeed. You're going to have to read. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to listen to people. You're going to have to just get bits and pieces of knowledge wherever you can. You got to study nature. You got to study everything. Just study the successful people. It's just so much that you have to learn, or that I've learned, just by looking at other people, talking to other people, just observing just the way life is, and it definitely changes your outlook, your perspective on things, the outlook on life. You start to look at things for what they really are. Things that you used to talk about and say, oh, this is so wrong, this is so, I guess, unfair. But being in business gives you a sense of fairness to the world, because the world is fair, because you get out of it what you put into it. It is fair. But until you get in that game, it's easy to say, okay, well, that's not right. This is unfair or whatever. But when you look at things from a pure numbers perspective, when you see the commitment that people have put into certain things to get where they are, you see the sense of fairness in life. And life, yeah, it can appear to be unfair. But the bottom line is, like I said before, if you just put something into life, if you just give it your all, you're going to get rewards. You might not get every 100% of effort that you put in, but you will see rewards. It's just up to you to persist. It's up to you to just keep going when you're not supposed to be continuing. You're not supposed to really show up. You're not supposed to work all night. You're not supposed to work without feeding yourself. Yeah, you're going to experience that, but get over it. You got to get over it. You got to reach down inside and just give it everything you got. Everything you got. And of course, if you do this consistently over time, you work smarter, you work harder, you work smarter, um, you communicate better, you plan better, you get you really just get rid of the doubt. After you reach that point, then the money starts to come in. And the money starts to be consistent. The money starts to be where you want it to be. You never get enough. You'll never have enough money. I don't care if you make 5 billion, you're never going to have enough. I see these guys all the time that are very rich. They're still in the game. It's the pursuit. It's about giving it all you got and then reaping the benefits of just laying it all down on the table and just going for it. So, the last thing we'll talk about is, your efforts. I know one thing when I used to work for people, I never felt that my efforts were appreciated. I thought that, my boss at times told me that, I was doing a great job when it was expedient for that person to actually tell me I'm doing a great job. Like, for example, if your boss is telling you you're doing a great job, and they keep telling you that you're doing a great job, and you really are doing a great job, then guess what? There's a responsibility that comes along with him telling you that you're doing a great job. And that responsibility is he's going to have to pay you more to keep you. So you find that a lot of times you work in certain politically charged environments where it's politically expedient not to tell someone that they're doing a great job. And you have to, this is what I mean by being in business, your outlook on things has changed. If a person is not telling you on your job that you're doing a good job, it's because they know that, hey, look, I'm going to have to pay this person. So to actually avoid that reality, sometimes they tell you, they don't tell you that you're doing a good job. They might overlook what you're doing. They might just treat you like any old kind of way because it's not politically expedient for them to tell you that you're doing a great job. But being in business, your customers tell you if you've done a great job. So if you wow them, WOW, if you wow them, they're gonna tell you you're doing a great job. It's not a thing where it's politically expedient for someone to tell me I'm having a great job. And I think everybody understands what I'm talking about. If you just look at your jobs that you had in the past, and you look at the lack of appreciation, it's because it wasn't expedient for them to tell you that you're doing a great job. Now, those who are rising up and those they know will rise up in corporate America or some other business environment that's politically charged, if you're rising up, oh yeah, they'll tell you that you're doing a great job. But everybody can't rise up. That's the reality. Everybody can't climb to the top. I mean, you might move up 1 or 2 levels, but everybody cannot climb to the top. You're going to have one king, you're going to have one person under that person, one person under that person, and one person under that person. Everybody can't be at the top. So you got to understand there's political motives why people don't necessarily tell you that you're doing a great job in a job situation. They might have somebody else in mind to come and actually be the person above you. Well, in that case, they're not going to tell you you're doing a great job, are they? They wouldn't tell you that. Because all they want to do is they want to paint a picture that you're not as adequate as you're supposed to be, right? So that they can always create that slot above you, right? So you're thinking that you're going to get to that next slot, but It might be some political reason. It might be some selfish reason. It might be a business reason why you can't get to that next level. So they're not going to tell you, okay, you're doing such a great job, right? Because they got another agenda. They got another plan. And that plan does not necessarily align with your plan. So, when you're in the game, that's a jungle as well. You have to understand these rules. You have to understand that the game that you're in. You know, I often tell people, and I'm going to get back to my subject. I often tell people that when you're in business, a lot of times that you learn at your mother and your grandmother's and your grandfather's table doesn't apply. A lot of times it just doesn't apply because, if you're from a background, let's just say you are a Christian background or a Muslim background or whatever, a religious background, and you're told to be quiet, you're told to be nice and do what you're supposed to do. Someone will actually recognize you and give you a way up to the top. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work that nicely. In a business environment, especially a politically charged environment, you have to play the game. There's a game, and we don't get that at the table. We don't get that in our homes because we try to be truthful with one another. But in the business world, that's not the way things work. And there should be a course on playing the game. Last thing I'm gonna say about this, I remember one time I was working for Ernst and Young, and I thought that I was being overlooked every year. I was work hard, man. I mean, I just worked. I was 100% utilized all the time, and I just work, and work some more after that. And I thought that because of doing that, I was going to actually get promoted. And it seems like that I was overlooked every time. And one day, I was talking to a gentleman. I was at a project. I forgot where it was. It was somewhere out of state. And I was talking to a gentleman. He was a partner at a CPA firm. And I said, man, I need to talk to him and maybe give me some pointers. So, I said, man, I'm frustrated. I just can't move up. Everybody everybody's just going above me. And it's all about politics. It's all about politics. So, I said, man, I don't want to play the game. I don't want to play the political game. This is not me. And I sat there and he listened to me, and I thought that he was going to tell me, yeah, man, it ain't right. It ain't right. Let me tell you what to do. He looked at me and he said, well, if you don't know how to play the game, you better learn the game, and you better learn it real quick, or else you're gonna be disappointed, because it is a game and you better learn that game. But anyway, that's a story I like to tell. I didn't mean to spend so much time talking about that life experience, but let me just move on. There are certain things that are causing people to actually think about, going into their own business. The corona impact. I'm not going to hammer you on that. You hear enough of that in the news. Every time you turn on the news, it's corona this, corona that, corona count, corona this, corona that. But let's kind of move on. We don't necessarily want to talk about those things. All right. So of course, millions are unemployed. Millions wanting to change. But the thing is, in these situations, in these dark hours, a lot of times success or great ideas really are born out of necessity. If you really just take this opportunity to actually reinvent yourself, think about the way the world is, think about how you can make things better, think about how you can make yourself better, think about a better way, and you will find that better way. It's just you have to act on it. Because in these times you get these ideas, you just have to follow it up. And this is what happens in every dark age. Someone or lots of people come up with ideas that are innovative, something that you do differently because you have no other choice. You have no other options. So look for those opportunities in this environment. I'm working now harder during this time than I've ever worked. I have more opportunities at this time than I ever had. So, look for that opportunity. They are there. You just have to look. All right. So here's a subject that I talk about to people when they come into my office, and it's near and dear to my heart. A person comes in and they say, hey, look, I'm married. I want to start my business. I say, hey, wait a minute. Pump the brakes. pump the brakes, sir, or ma'am. Look, have you talked this over with your spouse? Yeah, I let her know what I was doing. No, 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 no. I don't mean you informed your spouse. Did you talk this over with your spouse? Did you talk about, what your schedule would be, what this would do to our finances, the money we'd be giving up, what the risks are? Did you really talk with your spouse? This is the most important thing if you're married and you're going to start a business. This is the most important thing that you could possibly do before you open up those doors on that business. Talk it over with your spouse. Weigh the pros and cons, because a lot of times your spouse, they'll go along just to get along, right? They don't want to sound like a doubter when you have an idea, but sometimes they'll go along they know all along it's not going to work, or they know all along that there's a problem. There's a nut, they know all along that there's something that you just didn't consider, right? But they don't want to hurt your feelings. They don't want to shatter your dreams, right? So you got to have that open relationship where you can talk about things, because a lot of times in business, that's the only person you can go to if you got somebody good in your corner. But if you don't talk about it, if you don't have an agreement, if both of you are not on board, then look, it's going to be problems. You cannot kid yourself. You cannot kid yourself. I see this all the time. I like to talk about this issue because that has more of a bearing on your day-to-day business activity than anything else does. Your relationship with your spouse. That has more impact than a customer. It has more impact than your employees. It has more impact than your planning, because if things are not right there, then you're going to have serious problems and it will affect your business. So that's number one. Talk it over with your spouse. They got to be on board. You got to really listen to what they're saying. They make suggestions. I think you should really listen to those suggestions. A lot of times, we're so enamored with the dream of being successful that we don't necessarily see reality. So you have to develop your relationship where you can talk about what you're doing, and really you can get the constructive, real criticism from a spouse, right? And if you don't have that spouse, it's got to come from somebody that's real close to you, a brother, sister, colleague, whatever. But you got to have that open relationship with somebody that can tell you reality, because once you step out there, it's not like you can just press rewind and come back to the lifestyle that you always had. No, once you step out there, you're out there. So have that person that you can confide in, that person you can talk to, that you can really not only talk to, but you can listen to. That's the most important thing, to listen, because our egos, man, our egos, we thinking that, oh, we can do this, we can do that, but our egos will undermine us every time. I tell people all the time, the only reason why you got an ego is to undermine you. That's it. And you got to understand that the ego will undermine you every time. So know why you're doing something. Know why you want to be in business, and just make sure it's just not ego that's really the factor here. I have clients all the time who, for example, they're trying to impress somebody. So they're out there buying huge purchases that they know they can't afford, right? And it's all to really get back at somebody, or really show somebody, or you did this to me, so I'll show you. The next thing you know, you're going and you make that big purchase, house, car, whatever, just to show somebody, but it has serious financial repercussions behind it. So if you are going to go in the business, if you are going to make that major purchase, look, just take the emotion out of it. Take the emotion out of it. And if you can really take the emotion out of it and it looks good to you, then proceed. But you're gonna have to divorce yourself of the emotional part. I know it's hard, especially when you first start, because you have nothing but just an idea and emotions. I mean, that's all you have in the beginning, right? I mean, what do you have? You don't have the lease, you don't have the products, you don't have all the services that you're gonna provide. You just have your plan, and your emotions are the way you feel about that plan. So don't let it derail you. And I had to learn these things. This is why I keep mentioning these things. So if it's not right, should I just stay put or should I just move forward? And staying put might be your strategy. It might be a good strategy. It might not be time for you. So just weigh the pros and cons and weigh them realistically, objectively, the best that you can. All right. So I can talk on and on these subjects, but I'm gonna keep on rolling. All right. So why do I want to start this business? Why do I want to be engaged in this business? This is very important. You should write this down. Why? Get the reasons why. And if you don't know the why, you're in trouble. All right. How will it affect the family and the children? Right. So you're not going to have time. You're just not going to have time. You can fool yourself all you want to, but you're just not going to have time if you're trying to grow a business. How's that going to affect the children? What kind of schedule I'm going to have with the children? Right. So children don't need a lot of time. They really don't, right? A few minutes here and there, that's all they need, right? And they deserve that. So factor that in, right? So you're gonna have to give all your money, your time, worries, everything that you got, right? So that's the reality. Let me try to move a little faster because I don't want to eat up all the time talking about this. So here are some of the more concrete type of things that you should be thinking about. Look, if you are a couple, married or whatever, you always got to think in terms of, look, can I survive off of one income, right? If you want to start a business, because you might not bring any money in for the business. You might bring in money, today, tomorrow, whatever. But there are times that you're just not going to bring any money in. So, can you live off of one income? If you're not, try to structure your life where you can live off of that one income. Then your spouse is working somewhere. Can you curb your appetite for nice things? Oh, this is a killer here. This is a killer. Look, when you're growing a business, you ain't got time to be buying the best cars, the best houses, the whatever. You don't want to be slaves to these material things. Your dreams are most important to you, right? But your dream should stay right there foremost in your mind. But if you start buying these expensive items, like nice cars and nice homes and whatever, when you can take the money and really invest in your business, invest in your family, then you're going to lose sight of the vision, because you're going to be a slave to the nice car, the nice house. I cannot tell you how many clients who come in my office behind big time on filing taxes, behind big time on paying taxes, crying broke. But if I walk them downstairs, and I do this sometimes, I kind of trick them a little bit. I walk downstairs with them, walk out to the parking lot, and I see they're driving a brand new Mercedes. Come on, man. Come on. Let's back it up a little bit. No. You got to live within your means, especially when you start a new business. You don't want to be showing a whole lot. You don't want to be showing people a bunch of stuff that you've accomplished and a bunch of, here's my new car, here's my new house, whatever. No. If you're trying to grow a business, right? Live as meager as you possibly can. Have your family live as meager as they possibly can. Don't try to keep up with anything. You don't have anything to impress but yourself and your dreams. Keep that real to you. Keep that near and dear and divine to you, your dream, because those are dream killers. All right, so the next thing is, can your spouse really live under and live within their means? Hey, man, because, ma'am, look, you can be as meager as you want to be, but if your spouse is spending money like crazy, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your business. It's going to affect the way you stay in business or whether you stay in business. So can your spouse really live under those type of circumstances? So these things that you're going to have to discuss. But here's some of the things that I've heard running a successful business really is compared to. I heard a lady on television a couple of weeks ago say this, and I thought it was like spot on it. She said, running your own business is compared to childbirth. Now, I don't know anything about really bearing a child, but this is a lady who said that, and she was very successful. She said that it's close to childbirth. She might even said I think she even said it was worse than childbirth. So I mean, coming from a lady that had children, I respected that. So that shows you the type of difficulty that you're going to encounter, and you will. Also gratifying, but it is difficult. But again, no turning back, no retreat. You got to have that mental strength It's all about being that mentally tough person. You're gonna have to have some mental defense up. And there are times that you're gonna seem vulnerable. There's some times you're gonna feel like you're quitting. You're gonna feeling times like you're inadequate. You gotta toughen up. You got to toughen up and have that mentality of the tiger. You got to have that mentality of that tiger going after that prey, laying low in the grass, waiting, trying to summon up all your strength, all your being, everything, the mental strength. I wrap it up to as living in the moment. Living in the moment. Look, yesterday can't do anything for you. Forget it. Tomorrow can't even do anything for you because it ain't here. It ain't guaranteed, right? This moment, everything has to be in this moment. So what I do is I actually practice this. I do exercises, not necessarily physical exercises, but I do mental exercises to bring me to the current experience, bring me into the current moment. I just say, be here, be here, be here. I say it over and over and over because I want every ounce of my being to be able to be in this moment, not last week and what somebody did to me, last year or 10 years ago, what somebody did to me. Because if I'm thinking about that, I'm never going to overcome what's in front of me, right? So I'm trying to be in this moment, and I'm trying to give the best service that I can, and really give all I can to this moment. So these are some of the things that I learned. So physical health and endurance, you got to keep yourself in shape. You got to keep yourself going, keep yourself, under, I guess at your normal weight. If your normal weight is heavy, try to reduce it. If you're real skinny, try to put some pounds on you. But what my point is, your endurance, your cardiovascular endurance, because you will have to endure to the end. To really be a successful business person, and these are some of the things that I learned. I'm in the gym all the time. I'm pumping. I'm in the gym running. I'm in the gym doing whatever I have to do to stimulate my heart, because I need it. There's a lot of other reasons. I'll get into that maybe in another broadcast. But now here's another area. I think every slide I'm telling you is near and dear to my heart. But speed. Speed is everything. The goals, you got to have a goal and a limit for everything, right? Everything in your life got to have a goal. Some things are going to have goals, some things are going to have limits. And I really kind of put everything in those two buckets, right? For example, revenues. I got to know, how much revenue I need per day, how much do I need per week, how much do I need per month, how much do I need per year. That's my goal, right? Now I put in hour there because, I'm sorry, minute. I put it there by minute because you're going to find that during the time of the day, you waste so much time. You waste so many valuable minutes. So your goal cannot be compromised by spending too much time, just chatting, watching television, just doing mindless things. Every minute should be every minute should be devoted to actually accomplishing your goals. And you're gonna sound kind of anal about this, but this it works for me. I look at the time that I waste, and I have to limit that time that I waste. Now, when I first started business, I wasted a lot of time, man. I sit down in meetings for the longest time, just chit chatting about this and that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's going to eat into your profitability. Every moment has to be valuable to you. And speed. People say time is money. No. I say speed is money. If you can, time doesn't necessarily tell me anything about the speed in which I do things. But speed is money. The quicker you do things, the quicker you get things accomplished, you can move on to the next thing, the next meeting, the next task, the next whatever. But speed is everything. And go at it as fast as you can. So move, think, plan, decide, and the big one is decide. You can't sit there and just deliberate over things over and over and over and think about the pros and cons all night long. No. Take a choice, stick with that choice, and go for it. And go for it with all the speed that you got. Don't worry about, hey, if I'm wrong, hey, if I'm lost, hey, if I don't do this, hey, forget that. Just go for it. Just go for it. Yeah, you're gonna lose sometimes, but if you're gonna win more than you lose. That's the bottom line. You just do it with speed, and you just go at it fast. Everything has to be urgent. Everything has to be urgent. Email urgent. Call urgent. Everything has to be urgent. All right, so let me just move on. So I told in the future I'll go into more of these things like the revenue goals, the revenue limits on expenses, cash balance, every employee count. Everything really has a goal with me. I just look at every facet of my life and I say, okay, how do I have a goal or a limit on everything that I do? Right. This is something that I learned. I just say that everything has to be done fast. I have to have certain revenue goals. I have to have expense limits. I have to have certain cash balances. And I'm always watching them constantly. And I'm always on the move trying to push these things. Push them, push them, push them. Employee count. How many employees that I want to have? I'll get into this sometime later in some other broadcast, but I got to move a little quicker. Products and services. I know what products and services I want to give. What are my goals on these products and services? Debt. What are my limits on the debts? How much debt do I want to reduce by X amount of time? Number of calls. How many calls I want to make per day? The length of calls. Put limit on the calls. I want to talk to somebody for 2 minutes, 1 minute, whatever. I'm just anal like that. I have to be. I have to be because I only have a certain amount of time in a day. And I got 50 million things to do in a day. And the only way I'm going to do this is just move with quickness and put limits on my time, limits on everything, limits on my spending, limits on the things that can really be a bad thing for me. So let me just move a little quicker. Now, S Corps. Let me take a quick break. I'll come back and I promise you I would go over S Corps, some things with S Corps, and I'll do that. As you see, I got a little carried away on the other stuff, but I like talking about that stuff. These are everyday experiences that I learn, and they're near and dear to me. So look, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Hi, I'm Troy Emory. Here at TD Emory & Associates, we offer a wide variety of business tax services for small and large companies, including corporations and partnerships, nonprofits, and real estate taxation. Also, we offer audits, compilations, and reviews.
Let our knowledgeable staff at TD Emory & Associates help you optimize your tax benefits today. Dependable, accurate, trustworthy. TD Emory & Associates. Dependable, accurate, trustworthy. TD Emory & Associates.
What is this? The IRS?
We know that your tax preparation requires more than just the basics.
Hi, I'm Troy Emory, and I've spent my entire professional career helping taxpayers in a variety of tax issues. Let us show you how to confront and solve tax issues with every viable option under the law.
Call the tax team at TD Emory & Associates now.
Okay, we're back. I know I promised you I'd talk about the S Corp, so I'm going to talk about one thing before I get to the S Corps. If you want to look at other videos of my broadcasts, I'm out there on YouTube. I usually post as much as I can out there, and also you can see me on Facebook. The crew here, they do a great job of getting me all prepared every week. They do an outstanding job. I want to thank them. They just awesome. But anyway, S Corps. Okay, so with an S Corp, of course, it's really a small business entity, right? You know, there's such thing as a corporation. Everybody knows what a corporation is. You see these companies like your WalMarts and your big companies on Wall Street. They have stock. They have millions and millions of shareholders, right? But a corporation, S Corp, is a little bit different. It's kind of like those companies you see on Wall Street, but they're much, much smaller. Only 100 owners. That's the maximum you can have with an S Corp. But the tax benefits are a little better with the S Corp. The S Corp has been around since 1958. Did a little bit of research on it. I was curious, so I looked it up. They've been here since 1958. And what happens is, at the corporate level, you pay a tax, right? And then when you take money from the corporation, the person who receives the money from the corporation is taxed as well. The difference between a regular corporation and an S Corp is there's only one layer of tax. So the corporate level doesn't pay taxes. The net income just comes over to the business owner. So if I have one business owner, 100% of the net income just comes to me on my 1040 on the income tax return that I file every year. And I get 100% of that net income. Now if I have two, of course you split it up. Well, you can split it up 50-50, but it could be 20-80, it could be 30-70, any way that you want to, structure it. But the main thing is there's only one layer of tax with a S Corp. And what they were trying to do they were trying to really put the S corp on par with, say, an LLC, where it's one layer of tax, or a sole proprietorship. So in a sole proprietorship, you own a small business that's on a Schedule C on your income tax return. There's not two taxes. You don't have a tax on the S corp. I'm sorry, on the Schedule C, and a tax on you personally. No, everything is combined. So you only pay one tax as an individual, and that's the whole idea behind an S corp. I hope I made that clear, but I tried to break it down as fundamental as I possibly can. All right, so the difference is with an S corp is you have the liability protection that a C corp has. So, for example, if the C corp has done something in the course of business where they're sued, well, you can't go after the owners of the C corp. You can only go after the C corp itself, right? You can only go after the business itself. You can't go after in a regular corporation. You can't go after the owners for something that the business did. The business is a separate entity, right? So the S corp, and when it comes to liability, works the same way. So if you were sued in the course of business, then the owner personally can't get sued, but the S corp can get sued. So you have the same level of protection that a corporation has. LLC has that as well in most cases. But even if you do have a corporation or an S corp or an LLC, if you do something that's just grossly negligent, they're going to come after you anyway. So even if you have an S corp, a regular C corp, they can still come after you, right? So I've already mentioned it's only one layer of tax. So these are some of the benefits, and it's tax very kind of similar to a LLC, right? So there are some benefits over the LLC when it comes to that net income. This is why I really like S corps, and you can probably tell because I talk about them a lot. All right, so let me move on. As I mentioned before, you can only have 100 shareholders or less. Why? Is because this S corporation is supposed to be a small business corporation. So if you got thousands and thousands of shareholders, you don't look like a small business anymore. So the IRS really defines a small business when it comes to an S corp for it's just 100 shares and less. So we can be sure that it's going to be a small business in most cases. If it has 100 shares. Now you could be making 50 million, 20 million, 30 million, whatever it is with the S corp. But the shareholders, the owners are limited to just 100 owners. All right, so mainly the owners are individuals. So you can't have a situation where you have a company owning a S corp, right? So in a situation where you have these companies on Wall Street, you might have say Walmart. Walmart might own thousands of companies under Walmart, right? But you can't do that with an S corp. So with an S corp, it can only be owned by individuals. But why? It's because it's a small business entity, right? No non-resident aliens can really be owners of shareholders of the S corp. One class of stock. For example, the stocks that you see on Wall Street, they have different classes of stocks. They have different rights with the classes of stocks. That's the easiest way to look at it. I can get into that on another broadcast. But you can only have one class of stock. All right. Now the thing is, an S corp is sometimes the jurisdiction that the S corp is incorporated in has a bearing on certain benefits of the S corp. Like for example, in DC. It's not really advantageous to really have an S corp in DC. I mean, sometimes you can get around it, but in DC they don't recognize a S corp as a entity that actually has passed through where you don't necessarily pay tax at the corporate level. In DC, if you have an S corp, you pay tax at that S corp level. So just like any other corporation. So it kind of defeats the purpose of just having that one layer of tax, because actually if you're S corp in DC, you're going to have two layers of tax. Really, you're going to have your taxes that come to you as an individual, like I mentioned before, but DC is going to tax the entity itself. So you're going to have two levels of tax. So your jurisdiction has a lot to do with whether you're going to get certain tax benefits from an S corp. Like in Maryland here, Maryland does not tax S corps. net income, like I said before, it just flows to the individual. So a little bit different, and because of that, there's a tax savings by doing that. All right, so I'm going to move real quickly here because I think I'm running out of time. With a S corp, you get another benefit. Let's just say in a LLC, there's the net income coming to a LLC owner is $100K. Well, on that on the 1065, or if it's a single member LLC, they're going to pay the self-employment tax at 15.3% of that $100,000. So they're going to pay the regular income tax, and they're going to pay the self-employment tax. Well, with an S corp, that same $100,000, I can just plan with it, and I can plan with it to my advantage. I can say, okay, of the $100,000, $50,000 is my salary, and I'm going to get a W-2 for that. So I'm going to have the FICA, I'm going to have the Social Security taken out, all the other regular taxes, but and just that $50,000 is going to be taxed like that. The other $50,000, I'm going to give it to myself as a dividend, and therefore it won't be subject to the self-employment tax. So that $100,000 for a S corp owner is only paying the Social Security and the Medicare on $50,000 of it. So there's a lot of savings that you can do just by having the S corp structure. Only thing the IRS asks is you really have a reasonable salary. You can't say 100% of my earnings flow to me as a S corp owner, and therefore they flow to me as a dividend, and therefore I'm not paying any self-employment taxes. The IRS says, well, no, wait a minute. You got to have a reasonable salary. They don't define what reasonable is, but $40,000 to $50,000 on $100,000 is probably a reasonable salary. So you'll save when it comes to the self-employment tax over the LLC. Now, sometimes LLC are the best things for people, right? I'm not knocking LLCs. Sometimes LLCs are the best for people. If you own real estate and you're renting real estate out, or you're investing real estate and you want different complex structures and whatever with the real estate, LLCs probably are best, right? But if you're a consultant or just regular business, and you want to save on that self-employment tax, sometimes at S corp, I think most of the time, really, the S corp is the best avenue to go. All right, so another benefit is when I sell the business as an S corp owner, there are certain tax codes that are set up for S corp owners that will save them in taxes when they go to sell that business, and that's your main goal. That could be one of your main goals. One of your main goals could be to sell that business. But there are certain things in the tax code that will allow you to actually not pay as much taxes when you sell that business if you're an S corp owner. Just like the LLC, there's a concept here where tax-free dividend. Like, let me explain that real quick. So if my net on my S corp is $100,000, then I pay the tax on that $100,000. Well, I can get a $100,000 tax-free dividend. The reason why I can get a tax-free $100,000 tax-free dividend is because that $100,000, if you think about it, it comes to me. Not necessarily cash, but on paper, the net comes to me. I'm paying taxes on it already when it comes to my personal income tax return. So I can actually pull out $100,000 tax-free from the S corp. The LLCs work the same way. So those things are common with an LLC and an S corp. All right, so one cool thing about an S corp is, look, if I start making a lot of money as an S corp, I can actually revoke my S corp election, and sometimes it's actually brilliant to actually revoke your S corp election. Let me give you an example. The C corps now have a flat 20% tax, right? The C corps do. So there's going to be a point where you make enough money with an S corp where your personal income taxes starts to exceed that 21%. And if that were to happen, and we do these studies all the time, so if that were to happen, then you want to start revoking your S corp election, so that income that comes to you. Just say if you made, say, $400,000 or $500,000 that came from your S corp, and it goes to you personally. Remember, so I got $400,000. I'm taxed at 37% individually, right? But I can actually revoke my S corp election and become a C corp, for example, and I'm taxed at the flat 21%. So look at that differential. It's 21% versus 37%. So just by revoking that S corp election. So sometimes, that is a great benefit for a S corp owner. So you got to keep in mind there is a downfall with that. You can only you got to go 5 years after you revoke that S corp election before you can become an S corp again. So once you revoke it, you really have you got to really think about it. And then you got to go 5 years before you can actually become an S corp again. But most people, on the income, they start to climb like that. They're going to keep climbing, right? So no one's in business to be in business and be profitable for a little bit. You're trying to be profitable forever, right? So we don't plan necessarily that we're going to lose money in 3 or 5 years. If our income is really climbing, we expect it to continue to climb, and we do things actually to make sure it climbs. All right, so So already talked about this, the jurisdiction. You got to be careful about the jurisdiction in which you have an S corp in. Now, there are certain cases where S corp is probably not for you. Like, for example, just straight up. If you're not going to be disciplined about giving yourself a salary and actually getting a W-2, then S corp is not for you, right? Because S corps work better when you're going to take a salary. Remember, you're going to split the salary between a W-2 and a dividend, right? So the IRS expects you to be an S corp as an S corp owner, that you pay yourself a salary. But if you're not going to be disciplined enough to actually go through payroll, get a payroll check, get W-2s, do the quarterly filings and all that kind of stuff, I tell my clients all the time, hey, look, forget it. Just become an LLC. Just when you're LLC, just have 2 bank accounts, right? Just making it real simple. Have 2 bank accounts at least. Have a business bank account and a personal bank account if you're an LLC owner. And what you do is, when you want to make a personal expense, don't make it from the company, right? Have yourself just transfer money over to your personal account and make that expenditure from your personal account. Keep things separate. There are a lot of reasons for that, but you're going to have to keep things separate. So if you're not disciplined enough to actually pay those payroll taxes, I would not advise a S corp. All right, so now here's another case where a LLC is probably better than an S corp. If I expect huge losses for the next 3-5 years, whatever it is, a lot of times, and those losses are also, I also personally guarantee loans for the business. I'm going to get more deductions with the LLC than I would with the S corp. Let me tell you why. All right, so it may be kind of complicated, but just try to understand the overall concept. So if I have huge losses with an S corp, and I don't really guarantee the losses, my losses are limited to the amount that I can deduct on my tax return, are limited to really the money that I put into the firm, and basically the money that I put into the firm. So you might have only put in $10,000 into the firm, and you did not personally, and just say you personally guaranteed a $100,000, $200,000 loan. Well, your losses are going to be limited in an S corp situation to $10,000. Okay, but an LLC works a little different. If I personally guarantee my loans for the business, when a lot of times you are going to personally guarantee your loans. So if you had a company, just suppose it made $10,000. I'm sorry, it lost $100,000. And I put in $10,000 just like the S corp situation, but I lost $100,000, and I have a loan for $200,000 that I personally guaranteed, that I can take that whole $100,000 that I personally guaranteed and deduct it. So things are a little bit differently when it comes to losses and personal guarantees when it comes to the LLC and the S corp. So that happens a lot. I mean, it does happen. It might be a situation where you buy a lot of capital. You have to buy trucks. You might have to buy just huge equipment or whatever to actually get your business going. And a lot of times it might take 2 or 3 years to actually realize that those profits off of those large expenditures that you made, the LLC might be a better situation for you in that case, because you're personally guaranteeing loans and you can take larger deductions on it. So I think I'm going to stop there. I was going to talk about some of the strategies if you were not able to get the PPP as a business, and there are a lot of things, and I like to go into these things a little deeper. On other broadcasts, I talk about these things, so you can go and check out some of the other videos, and they can go into that. But I wanted to go a little bit deeper this time, but I think I'm just out of time. So I think I'm going to put a pin in it. We talked about it a lot, and a lot to consider. Go back and listen to it over and over and over. If you have any suggestions that you want me to talk about, just email me, and I will actually bring those things up. So until next week, stay safe, stay positive, work hard. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, I'm Troy Emory. Here at TD Emory and Associates, we offer a wide variety of business tax services for small and large companies, including corporations and partnerships, nonprofits, and real estate taxation. Also, we offer audits, compilations, and reviews.
Let our knowledgeable staff at TD Emory and Associates help you optimize your tax benefits today. Dependable, accurate, trustworthy. TD Emory and Associates. Dependable, accurate, trustworthy. TD Emory and Associates.
What is this? The IRS?
We know that your tax preparation requires more than just the basics.
Hi, I'm Troy Emory, and I've spent my entire professional career helping taxpayers in a variety of tax issues. Let us show you how to confront and solve tax issues with every viable option under the law.
Call the tax team at TD